Hey everyone, this is Francesco with Icon Auto Mods. Today we'll be doing a 3 to 12 color ambient light upgrade on this beautiful 2018 GLE 63S. This is pretty much the same procedure for all GLE's MLs, W166 2012 through 2018. But keep in mind that this kit will only work if you have the existing 3-color ambient lighting. Otherwise, you're going to have to change out the trim. Now, this kit was purchased from my friends over at Endless DIY Automotive. So make sure you check out their eBay page. I will leave the link in the description below. All their products are super great quality, and they're constantly updating all their items. So again, go check them out. Their prices are super fair, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. So at this point, go ahead and disconnect your battery. It's located underneath the passenger seat. All right, so let's start by removing the bezel from around the head unit. It's got pretty much 4 clips on each corner. And next we're going to remove the climate control. Take a little pry tool and put it in that little notch right up top. 2 clips up top, and then pull down. And it's got 2 clips on the bottom as well. Go ahead and just let it hang there, it's no big deal. These 2 screws here, those are going to be T20s. Go ahead and remove those and pull down on those little tabs. Head unit will come out. So once you pull your head unit all the way out, you're going to notice these 2 T20 screws right here and right here. You're going to want to remove those as well. And once you've got it pulled out, go ahead and remove this connector right there. It's got a locking tab right up top. And you can pull your head unit out. Now at this point, you can go ahead and start disconnecting all your connectors from back there. You can let it hang there for just a second. Now we're going to remove the screen. I'm going to get you a pick tool and I'm going to open these tabs right here. And that's going to expose another T20 screw. There. So 1, 2. And you don't have to pull these completely out, but you'll kind of feel when it's going to stop. You're going to pull up and out. Go ahead and remove your connectors here as well. It's got a locking tab on the bottom on each one of these. Now earlier I showed you those that screw that was underneath the vents. Once you've got those 2 removed, you can pull out. Now this generally takes a little bit of patience. Otherwise it's going to want to kind of come apart, and you've got 1 connector there. At this point, go ahead and remove your quad lock connector and any other connectors that you haven't already removed. Once you've got your head unit removed, you can put the HVAC unit or module back where it was. Kind of tuck everything back inside. We're done there for now. We're going to work on removing the main trim. It's got, as you can expect, a clip on pretty much each corner. Remember guys, I'm doing this with 1 hand, so it's a little shaky. I apologize. Remove that one. There's 2 on that side. and then just kind of pull out. Let's remove this access panel here. And you'll remove your vent. And it's going to want to come apart on you if you don't get in there with an actual panel removing tool and work it out, but either way. Saw that I removed that connector off the trim, and there's one more connector here as well. Next, we're going to remove this access panel from the driver's side or left side, and you want to kind of work your panel removing tool in there. On the passenger side, I didn't do this, but I wanted to show you guys how much easier it is if you just remove it with your panel tool. There's the air vent and the connector. You want to keep that one out because we'll be using it. And pull out on that piece of trim, and you've got one more ambient lighting connector there as well. Kind of tuck everything away there neatly. All right, so now let's focus on removing the door panels. I've got my own way of doing this. It's, I remove these clips here on the outside of the panel first. Remove the insert. Make sure that the little clips inside aren't catching. Kind of push them in, move them out or out of the way, and then pull out. Next, we'll remove the little cover that exposes the T30. And these can break, so make sure you work the outsides right above the actual clips. To remove the panels, just kind of find your way on the bottom. And once you do one of them, you kind of understand where all the clips are. Of course, I'm doing this with just tools that pretty much anybody has. Now, I do have a panel separator tool, but I want to show you that you don't really need special tools for this. So you remove the speaker grill. Notice how I'm working on the left side of it. I pull out and then toward me. Notice that clip on the bottom that makes its way under the panel. Here, just kind of work it very gently up top. That whole panel will connect to that belt molding. And here we're going to remove the door handle cable by pulling the sheathing away from the channel and up. You can go ahead and start removing these as well. These are your connectors that go from the actual door to the panel. It's not really necessary to remove all of them. You can if you want. Really, it's just the blue, the purple. You'll need to remove that main white one that you can see there. And then depending on whatever packages your vehicle has, there's a connector that's actually above the door control module. But really it's just, like I said, the blue and the purple. And yeah, there you go. That's it. Pretty straightforward. We'll remove the rear door panel. Start by removing the speaker, and it'll expose that T30 right there. And same thing on this little cover. Just work your way up from the top and just kind of move it outward. And there's another T30 right there. So disconnect your speaker and tuck your harness in. Start removing all the clips as well. Once you've got a couple of them undone on the bottom, just kind of stick your hands in there and just pull toward you. Obviously, if you feel too much resistance, be careful, use your best judgment. And sometimes you'll see that some of the actual clips stay behind. No big deal. Just pop them back in whenever we've got everything removed. You're going to work your way from the left to the right. And I'll show you this groove. That's where your panel will insert. That's important to know whenever you go to put this back on. Move the door handle cable and pull out. Blue connector and purple connector. Notice the tab underneath. And that's it. Now, this is very, very, very important. Before we actually start installing these, take your box for each little module that goes on each door, take it apart, and there's a set of dip switches on here. If you're doing the GLE, you'll want to have 1 and 2 on position on, and 3 position off. 4 will be in position on. So up, up, down, up. Now we start taking our door panel apart. Start by removing some of this insulation out of the way. And that's an ambient lighting connector there. Unplug it. That is your seat connector, your door lock connector, and another ambient light connector. Get all of those out of the way. To remove these ambient light female connectors, you'll see a little tab underneath. Again, doing this with one hand, so bear with me here. Use your pick tool, pull away and out. Super easy. And we'll do the same thing for the blue one. And that one's for your door handle. Now, you can keep these in the door if you want. I just remove them. We're going to remove all these bolts. These are the T20s, and these are the screws, rather, that hold the door trim to the panel. All T20s. This is the actual ambient light for the handle, the door handle cup, and then that'll be the one for the actual ambient lighting. You can't remove that one until you remove the panel, or the trim from the panel. So push down on these clips once you've removed all of your screws and pull out. Super easy. Now be very, very careful when you are removing these actual lights from the acrylic. Just be very gentle with it because they can break. And if you break them, well, then you'll have to replace them. Oh, this is going to be for the front right. And you'll notice that one of them is actually a little bit longer than the other. All depends on how you want to situate your box. You're going to put them through the hole, so remember this is going to be for the door handle hole, and then the other one's for the actual ambient light, which was the first hole. Go ahead and connect these, and on that door one, the door handle one, I'd actually put it on the other way, so that was my mistake. But noticed it when you went to put it right back on, it doesn't want to fit well. There you go. Push in and make sure it secures into its locking position there. So notice how that door handle one's giving me a little bit of grief. That's because it's on the back the other way. There we go. Now once you've got these on there, make sure you put your clips in first. 1, 2, and then you can put your T20s back in. Okay, so now we've got them all put back where they belong, and we are connecting all of our factory connectors, except obviously for the ones that had anything to do with the ambient lighting. We'll just tuck those away, put everything away real neatly. And I like to use all these existing grooves to kind of channel my harness through. In this module, we're going to Velcro it, this cavity right there. Now I like to put the hook side or the hard side of the Velcro on the actual module, and the loop side or the soft side on the door panel itself. So however you want to do it, it's up to you. And we'll just secure it right there. Run your harnesses through the same hole in the insulation where your factory harness comes out of. And once you've done that, and you've given yourself enough slack on all your harness, make sure you just wrap them up neatly and put your insulation back. Make sure they go in all of their little hooks where they belong. Just like that. There's a few up top, and I think there was like 1 or 2 on the very bottom. If you don't remove the bottom ones, then it doesn't really matter. Nice and neat. Now we'll do the rear door. Pretty much same procedure as the front. Remove your insulation and remove your factory connectors. Same procedure. Now when you go to actually reinstall the trim back onto the panel, you'll want to do the frontmost side of the trim first. Kind of locks into place. Otherwise, if you just try to put the trim back in its place, you'll notice that it's not ever going to go in. Put the frontmost side of the trim in first, kind of slides into place, and then do the rearmost. Here we are, we're removing the same ambient light like we had on the front panel. Again, be really careful with that acrylic. Okay, this is the rear right. And we're going to situate it right somewhere right below the door cup, door handle cup. Put your wires through the holes first on the door panel. Go ahead and connect them and then situate your trim back in place. Again, one hand. This is where I'm demonstrating. Make sure you put the frontmost side in first. And move your harness out of the way. You don't want anything really pinched. Just like that. Then work your way backwards, or rearmost. All the T20s back in place, and our Velcro where it belongs. Hook side on the module, loop side on the panel. We're going to organize and tidy up our harnesses. And I just used the wire ties that came with the panel, or the kit, excuse me. Reinstall your thin slit or insulation. Make sure your harness comes out through the same hole the factory harness comes in, and then you can tie those together. Keeps everything nice and neat. Again, just showing you, I just use the same wire tie. You don't need special zip ties or anything special. Just a couple of tools. Just want to keep it simple. So keep in mind, this stuff needs to be serviceable by technicians if the vehicle's still under warranty. So you don't want to make it difficult for them. Now we're going to work on the trim for the dashboard. If I remember correctly, the main piece has 2 LEDs and they run through this little channel. Within the channel there are clips. And then this is the little piece of trim that goes on the left side of the vehicle. So remove your LEDs, same procedure to slide that connector out, female side, and start working your way through that channel. Don't pull too hard, you can tear something, and obviously we don't want to do that. It gives you a little resistance, use your pick tool and work it out. Right here, this one tends to get stuck every time I do these, but no biggie. Pull it outward. Now this is going to be your harness for the trim. And notice that there's going to be one connector there and one LED by itself. That's going to be obviously the one that goes toward the left side of the vehicle, and then the piece, the harness that has the 2 LEDs goes on the larger piece of trim. Here we've connected it where it goes there and run it through that channel. Use your pick tool and kind of make sure it under those clips. Just like that. At this point you can go ahead and disconnect those. You don't have to have them connected. And then we're going to do this little piece of trim here. Same procedure. Now that little piece of plastic there that emits the light, that's going to always come out with the LED, so no big deal. Just disconnect it from the LED and you'll put it on your new one. Let's make sure everything is nice and snug and where it belongs. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the right side panel first. You want to unplug this harness right here. It's got your main power feed to it, and it's got a couple of CANBUS wires underneath it. And so basically what our kit does is it's basically a T-harness, right? So just connect your female side to the factory male, and then your aftermarket male into the door module there. Make sure everything is nice and snug. Connect your blue and your purple connectors back in place, and then that top connector as well. Go ahead and install your door handle cable here. Insert, and you'll want to pull away from the groove. Pull and insert into the groove, and then let it go, and it'll make its way back into its place there. Put your door lock back in. Now when you go to install this trim panel, again, pay special attention to where the panel is, right? Because you want to make sure that this panel fits into that groove on that belt molding. And you'll feel it. Once you're not really going to hear it click, but you'll feel it kind of make its way into that groove. Here's our little clip from earlier, where I show you kind of how to put it back. You'll want to do it from the back side and pull it out a little bit, and you're going to kind of feel where it wants to stop before it comes out completely. So. Pull it out just a tad bit right there. And it's good to install. Now obviously that's one of the last clips that you're going to put once you've already installed all your other clips that hold the panel to the door. Push this in. Rarely does it go in all the way. And start working this cover. Start from the top. I do the inside of the glass part first, and then the part where it meets the weather stripping. I'll do it backwards here just to kind of show you how sometimes it won't fit in there well if you don't do the inside first. Work that piece of trim all the way around, and then 1, 2, and make sure your weather stripping is above the trim piece. We're going to reinstall our tweeter. Again, make sure you put that clip in after you connect your speaker. That clip that's under the actual trim or the piece there, yep, make sure you slide that right in first, and then you'll do your I do the inside of the window first, and then I do these two clips. This will take some practice, but you'll get it. Do the window side first. And notice what happens if you don't hook it into the panel first. Kind of, there's a big gap. Once you've hooked that on, you'll know that it's good to go when everything is nice and all the tolerances are pretty much fit finishes right. Reinstall your T30 here. And pop your cover back in place. We're done. We'll work on the rear door. You guessed it, it's pretty much the same process. Main connector here. Factory male to aftermarket female, and aftermarket male into the module. Connect your blue and purple. And make sure you feed your tweeter harness back through that hole. You'll notice actually where you can pull back on there, and it'll keep that harness from pulling out. Now put your door handle cable back in. Pull back and put it in its channel. T30, and then we're going to reinstall our tweeter. You'll see that the tweeter itself actually has like a tongue on it, and that's how you know that you've got it in its right position. Put your cover back on after you've reinstalled both of your T30s. This is where I show you that tongue and groove that it has. Pop it back in, you're done. Make sure everything is nice and snug, no gaps. There's that Mercedes-Benz fit and finish. Now let's focus on the passenger side here. We're going to remove this panel. There are 4 T20s. 3 in the front are exactly the same, and the rear one is a little different. And then you'll notice that AC duct and your ambient temperature sensor. You can remove the plug, or you can remove the whole sensor by turning it counterclockwise and out. And then this would also be where you would run your CANBUS connector, because the front's a little bit different than the rear. You'll put your fuse in any one of those. I like to do it in that spare one, and then my ground point there. Now, this is for the footwell lights. Take one of those and remove a harness from it. I don't know why they come like this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but just follow me here. This customer opted out of the footwell lights anyways, but it's a very straightforward process. You're going to take that male, because it's going to have one male on one side and a male and a female on the other side. Take that male connector, and we're going to run it to where the factory connector was in the dash. Just kind of feed it through. Again, I'm doing this with one hand. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but it can be a little tedious. So you're going to run that through and bring it out where that factory connector is. Then we're going to do the other side. Now this is for the left side. So get you a fishing tool. You're going to fish it through, put it in through your hole there where the factory connector was. Tie it to your fishing line there, your fishing string, and then you're going to pull it through from behind the instrument cluster out through the driver's side center console AC duct. And you can give yourself a little slack here. Don't need much. But once you pull that all the way through, I'll show you where you're actually going to connect that to. So take you'll take your bigger piece of trim. You're going to connect it to that. Here, just put this back in place. Make sure it fits in nice and snug. It's got like 3 clips on it, I believe. Tuck everything away. Remember, you'll still be using that one harness that connects to the vent itself, little connector. And I believe it's the connector with just 2 wires. I accidentally pulled the one that was for the ambient light, but you get it. Put it back in its place, make sure everything snaps in well. I find it easier to do the side that's closest to the steering wheel and then pop the left side. Now we're going to take that connector that we fished through. You're going to bring it in underneath right. Well, you'll be putting in the trim connector through there. You'll fish it through out or up and out to where where we brought that other where we fished the other connector through. Once you plug them in together, just kind of work it back in there neatly. Notice that it's not going through the actual HVAC opening. Now the male connector that we brought in through earlier, we connect it to the trim piece there. We can move our factory connector out of the way, just tuck it back in there, no problem. Now you can put tape on these if you want. Nothing's going to happen. It's up to you. Once you've got those connected, tuck everything back in and make sure you pop all of your clips back where they belong. And if you put all of your clips where they go before you pop them in, it makes this process a lot easier. Just kind of situate it where it needs to go. Otherwise, well, you can see here that it can be a little bit of a hassle. Make sure this area is clear of any harnesses and connect that wire back where it goes into the vent. And that's just really for lighting. Now this is where we take our harness that was by itself. We're going to feed that male connector through and bring it out the bottom. And that one is going to plug into the female of the two that came out from the harness that we plugged into the for the dash trim. And then you want to bring in that yellow connector, pull it down, and that's going to go into that CANBUS, that block right there. You want to plug it into that free spot. Now if you were doing your footwell lights, this is where you would take your factory lighting out of the way. This customer didn't want them. He really liked his factory illumination down there, so no problem. But yeah, you would just move all that out of the way, and there is your ground. And for this add a fuse here, if you decide to use one of the blank spots, you'll have to add an additional fuse to it because it only comes with the 2 amp one. I added the 7.5. For the dash trim module, we want to make sure our dip switches are set up just like we did the doors. So up, up, down, up. And then you're going to connect the male harness that comes from the trim light and the male connector that comes from the CANBUS / power harness. And for your footwell lighting, you would put that there, and then you would run that harness through the center console to the driver's side, and then from the driver's side you'll connect and you'll fish the rear 2 seat ones through the center console, and you'll want plenty of slack for those seats to be able to move back and forth freely. Now we need to do the programming. This part is kind of tricky because all of the programming on WeChat is in Chinese. So I don't read Chinese, but I use Google Lens to translate things for me, and the programming portion will be in a separate video. And so you'll need to also purchase that additional module. That is the OBD2 module that you're going to use to program. It can be used over and over and over again, and Endless DIY Automotive also offers that for sale. I'm doing the video separately because it is the most tedious process in my opinion. So make sure to check that out as well. Once you're done with the programming portion, first thing you want to do is go to ambient light brightness, turn it all the way up, otherwise it's not going to be on. And then you can flip over to your colors and select freely. once you get the hang of this kit, it's fantastic. Again, in the programming portion of it could be a lot easier, but from what I've heard, it's actually easier now than it has ever been. Um, but yeah, this customer was so pleased. Personally, I would have liked to have done the footwell lighting as well, but he he didn't want that. So GLE 63S. So for this particular application, we did a GLE, but this kit can actually be used on W218 CLS, W212 E-Class, GLA, CLA, various other models. Um, and they can provide you with the right dip switch settings to set it to. And that's it, guys. I hope this video has been educational, and please like, comment, subscribe. Help me get this channel started. It's something I wanted to do for a really long time, but life gets in the way, and I don't actually do this full time. This is my passion. It's a side hustle, and I absolutely love it. But make sure you check out Endless DIY Automotive on eBay for any Mercedes-Benz retrofits, and be on the lookout for more content. Take care.